There are roughly 60,000 cargo ships moving across the world's oceans right now. Container ships, oil tankers, bulk carriers hauling coal and grain. Together, they are worth over $1 trillion. And here is a secret that keeps shipping executives up at night. Most of those ships are not owned by shipping companies. They are leased, rented from a handful of specialized leasing firms that operate in total anonymity. Companies like Seaspan, Danaos, and Chinese state-backed giants control the largest privately owned merchant fleet in history, and they do not carry a single container themselves. They are the invisible landlords of the ocean. So why would a company like Hapag-Lloyd, with $20 billion in annual revenue, choose to rent a $200 million vessel instead of buying it? And how did these leasing companies become the silent kingmakers of global maritime capacity, controlling not just ships, but ordering power at shipyards and the very design of vessels themselves? To understand this, we have to start with a harsh reality about shipping that nobody talks about. Cash is king, and margins in shipping are notoriously razor-thin. A modern, ultra-large container vessel costs upwards of $200 million to build. And that is just the ship. To fill that vessel for even a single voyage, you need containers, roughly $50 million worth of containers. If a shipping line buys those containers, that $50 million is locked up. It sits on the balance sheet as a depreciating asset, capital expenditure. It will slowly rust over the next 15 years, earning nothing but maintenance costs. But if they lease that equipment, the cost transforms. It moves from capital expenditure to operating expenditure. Instead of writing a massive upfront check, it becomes a manageable monthly fee. This keeps that $50 million liquid, allowing the shipping line to buy more ships, upgrade their systems, or acquire competitors. But the accounting trick is just the appetizer. The main course, the real reason leasing dominates this industry, is a problem called trade imbalance. Let's look at the Shanghai to Los Angeles route. Ships leave China absolutely packed with electronics, clothes, furniture, toys, everything Americans buy. But the return trip, Los Angeles back to Shanghai, is known in the industry as a backhaul. The United States simply does not export enough manufactured goods back to China to fill those ships. This creates a massive surplus of equipment in Los Angeles. If a shipping line owns its vessels outright, it is now responsible for the cardinal sin of logistics, shipping air. The company has to load that vessel, burn fuel to carry it 6,000 miles back to Asia, and pay port fees to dock it, all while generating exactly $0 in revenue. During the global shipping chaos in 2021, some companies were burning millions just repositioning equipment. This is where the leasing companies play their ace card. The master lease allows a shipping line to pick up a vessel in Shanghai, use it to carry cargo to Los Angeles, and then drop it off at the leasing company's location. Once that vessel is returned, the meter stops. The problem of moving that vessel back to Asia now belongs to the leasing company. Why would a leasing company want to inherit that nightmare? Because they have the one thing a shipping line lacks: neutrality. While Maersk might not have a customer in Los Angeles needing a vessel, the leasing company works with everyone. They might have another client who needs that exact ship to carry goods from California to Vietnam or auto parts to Japan. By aggregating demand across hundreds of shipping lines and traders, they turn the inefficiency of global trade into a localized rental market. It is the Airbnb model, but for $200 million cargo ships. So who exactly are these invisible landlords? If you are a shipping executive in crisis and you need vessels fast, you are calling one of 5 names. The undisputed heavyweight champion is Seaspan Corporation, part of Atlas Corporation. As of 2024, Seaspan operates 127 vessels, with a total capacity of over 1 million TEU or 20-foot equivalent units. Their fleet is massive, and they are the first call for any shipping line in a crisis. Trailing them is Global Ship Lease, with 65 vessels and over 519,000 TEU capacity. Then there is Danaos Corporation, operating 55 vessels with nearly 349,000 TEU. Danaos is the quiet giant, favored for long-term charter contracts that average over 5 years. Costamare Incorporated rounds out the top tier, And then there is the wild card. A Chinese state-owned leasing giant backed by Costco Shipping. This creates an awkward dynamic where rival shipping lines are essentially renting equipment from a competitor, but often have no choice. Together, these 5 companies control roughly 85% of the global leased fleet. This is a monopoly hiding in plain sight. But the leasing market is not just about standard cargo vessels. It gets much more expensive when you move into specialized equipment. About 30% of the leasing market value comes from specialized vessels, primarily refrigerated carriers and LNG tankers. These are not just ships. They are floating appliances capable of keeping Chilean blueberries at exactly 34 degrees Fahrenheit while crossing the equator, or transporting liquefied natural gas at minus 260 degrees. A standard bulk carrier might cost $40 million. A specialized LNG carrier costs over $200 million. For a shipping line, owning a massive fleet of these high-maintenance assets is risky. They require specialized engineers and constant monitoring. Leasing companies take on that risk. They handle the maintenance life cycle. Shipping lines are more than happy to pay a premium to offload this headache. They rent the vessel for cherry season in Chile and return it when the season ends, avoiding the cost of storing a $200 million machine that sits idle for 6 months. But here's where the power dynamics get really interesting. The real leverage in this industry does not just come from owning the vessels, it comes from where those vessels are born. The vast majority of the world's cargo ships are built in 3 countries: China, South Korea, and Japan. This is the manufacturing bottleneck. You cannot just build a cargo ship anywhere. It requires specialized shipyards, enormous dry docks, and years of engineering expertise. This gives the leasing giants immense power. They are the biggest customers of these shipyards. When production slots are tight, Seaspan and Danaos get the first call. Small independent shipping lines get sent to the back of the line. The leasing companies essentially control the global ordering power at shipyards. If Seaspan has already locked up 80% of the yard's capacity, you're out of luck. This gives them the ability to influence vessel design, fuel efficiency standards, and environmental compliance. They are the silent kingmakers of maritime capacity. The power of this monopoly was proven in 2021 when the system broke. When the pandemic hit, consumer demand for goods exploded. Suddenly, the world needed millions of extra tons of shipping capacity. But because of port congestion, vessels were stranded inland, and the velocity of the global fleet collapsed. Shipping lines were desperate. The cost to lease a post-Panamax container vessel jumped from around $15,000 per day to over $50,000 per day. Charter rates tripled. This was the moment the leasing companies went from utility providers to kingmakers. Companies like Seaspan and Danaos used their massive capital reserves to buy up almost all available production slots in Chinese and Korean shipyards. They spent billions securing new vessels, then leased them to desperate shipping lines on lifecycle leases, locking them into high rates for 5 to 10 years. The shipping lines had no choice. The crisis eventually ended. Shipping rates crashed back down in 2023. But those leases are still valid. The shipping lines are now stuck paying crisis-era rent in a post-crisis world. But perhaps the most surprising factor that cemented this leasing monopoly was Chinese and Japanese state-backed financial institutions. When traditional European banks withdrew from ship finance over the past decade, Chinese and Japanese lessors stepped in with aggressive sale and leaseback structures. A shipping company could sell its existing fleet to a Chinese lessor, receive an immediate cash injection, and then lease those same vessels back. These leasing companies, backed by state banks and trading houses like Mitsui and Mitsubishi, offered something Western banks could not: patient capital. They could operate on thin margins for years because they were playing a 20-year game. This flexibility made them indispensable. So what's next? Today, the industry is pivoting again. We're entering the era of the smart vessel. For decades, once a ship left port, it was a black hole. Now, leasing companies are retrofitting fleets with IoT sensors, satellite tracking, and real-time monitoring systems. The leasing giants are evolving from renting steel to selling data as a service. If you are Apple shipping iPhones worth $50 million, you are paying for the certainty that your cargo has not been delayed or damaged. This data layer makes the leasing companies even stickier. A shipping line might switch suppliers to save $1,000 a day, but they will not switch if it means losing visibility on where their cargo is. Analysts predict that by 2030, over 60% of leased vessels will have integrated smart monitoring. The leasing companies are also diversifying. Seaspan has invested in green ammonia-powered vessels, and Danaos is exploring hydrogen fuel cells. As environmental regulations tighten, the leasing companies will decide which technologies win and which die. So the next time you're stuck in traffic next to a semi-truck hauling cargo from the port, remember that there is a good chance that ship is a rental unit, a silent, wandering asset owned by a company you've never heard of. That's modern shipping. Invisible, interconnected, and more concentrated than most people realize. What do you think? Let me know in the comments.